Okay, here we go.
For having said them.
While Kamala Harris
So-
has not been well short of apologizing.
Looking at what do you call it here? Such and such, and looking at presidential cleanups, they say what they call it, apologies and cleanups. Let's put a spin on it, a personal spin on it. Well,
They have to say, I'm sorry.
it's like, oh yeah, okay, so you see, you jump into work and you're like, what is you want to get to work? Oh, what is it that you labeled as in your work? You're some type of police informant, some type of police servant or something like that, a public servant of police. So I seen a glitch of a sign that said earlier, we are servants of the public. How could you be a servant of the public when you don't do anything, when the public doesn't do it? Public assistance doesn't do it. You pay taxes to pay the public to serve them. I mean, what is that? What is that? That's like its own government. I mean, is that doesn't even that doesn't exist. I mean, it's like real in a sense of like hypocrisy real, but it's like if you think about it, it's kind of like the aggravation of it, of to think that someone would be so absurd to think that you pay taxes to serve the public, which in turn does what? Nothing. Does nothing. Where you are basically, the list is like long and stuff like that, right? So I mean, so it's basically saying as instead of calling a fish or something a Texas cichlid, you call it something else nowadays. Now it's called something else. So it's a polarization, and really bottom line is if you can send someone on the moon, then you pretty much have kind of bragging rights. You know what I'm saying? You kind of can't really avoid that idea. That's just like that's like the Sears of it all. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how that goes. You know what I mean? It's things on like on a basic human level stuff. Yeah, of course, governance and stuff like that. But you sit up there and you try to play governance, and then you say, "Well, wait a minute, put your foot down," and stuff like that. Well, you can't say you're a public servant and be like, people are servants of the public when, and that's like its own philosophy in itself. That's like some radicalized thought of something like that it's like taking introduction to what do you call it to apocalypse poetry or something. So what I mean. So I mean, what I'm saying. So I don't. And the only reason I say this is because they say, "Oh, be one with the weather and stuff like that. Be disgruntled with the disgruntled and stuff." Well, how else there's to be? You be one with the wind and stuff like that. And you lose your breath and be like, "Oh, that's okay. Because you pay our taxes and we multiply and stuff like that." In this lifetime, what is that? In this lifetime, how is that? You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, just such and such, and I was like, there's always, we fight the good fight. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, well then you're the good person in the worst sense of the word, aren't you? Then. So, and among other things, like, oh, you know what, such and such, and so, and they say something, so I was like, oh, jealous got me strapped and stuff. So it's basically a tug of war like thing, and there's no really tug of war because you have to kind of just know where the ships lie and stuff like that, So. So you say, such and such, and we have an infatuation towards someone, or we are kind of such and such. You don't know whether such and such. Well, maybe that's true then. Maybe that's why this you're kind of like a big mess then, aren't you? And like in your whole psyche, That's kind of why you always need somebody else to clean up. You need someone else to fall back on because it's a big mess about it.
You're like the majority.
So
you're actually a well-balanced driver.
So
Short trips around
I'm
town.
like, oh yeah, would you like to? Would you see yourself? Oh no, some people are like, oh, they don't forget the idea that year-to-year leases and rental units are year-to-year leases. You don't have a fictitious job to act like you are some type of factor in a place when you're just like moving branches, like saying like as you walk or something like that. You know what I mean? And stuff like this. You know, like you're like you know, saying like that's a big difference and stuff. No, you're just getting aid. You're just getting you know, you're like you know, here's a handout from the government. You know what I mean? And it's that's basically it. So even in those cases, so you say, oh, you know, slow down or something like that.
You have a car, but don't drive very far.
Oh yeah, you know.
Paying for miles and
So,
don't drive.
every year, you know what I'm saying? So when that 3 months comes up, or that come around, that 2 weeks comes up, and that little game you play, it comes around the corner, like, oh yeah, my lease is up, what's good, you know what I'm saying? What is it about the trade, or whatever it is, a trade? What about it, you know what I mean? Everybody has to go through that. What does that make you exempt from that idea? I don't think so.
Whereas Brian, what do you learn?
So-
The decision of this woman, Anastasia Vashukevich, to suddenly stop talking is a chilling development tonight.
I just say South Korea's South coach goes silent on Russian
Her
Mountain.
silence has Kremlin watchers voicing real concern now about the pressure that's likely been placed on her. She had written a book on how to seduce a billionaire. Was of course on social media with Instagram posts from jail in Thailand, even from the back of a paddy wagon, and claimed she had inside information on Russian interference in America's 2016.
So this is something else. They're talking about something else, or they're saying about Russia again. So I'm just gonna pause
But
right here.
tonight, Anastasia Vashukevich, a self-proclaimed seductress and